When you're looking at this from a licensing perspective, they're actually grouped fairly nicely. So if you're looking at just doing the basic SQL agent, what you would want to use for that is something we call the application or database pack. The application and database pack is sold on a per server basis, and you can purchase it regardless of what application you're running. So it could be SQL, Exchange, SharePoint, or even other applications. That gets you the basic SQL agent. And then these other options here of instant recovery and off-host is something that we call the enterprise client. The enterprise client is something that is really designed to be a higher level RPO or RTO. So as you reduce that, you can purchase this enterprise client for the hosts that you have a higher level of protection with. And then obviously Storage Foundation High Availability is sold as a separate license option too. So you have some choices here so that you can really pay for the type of protection you need and not overpay for something that you may not need as high level protection with. Now the final thing I want to talk about is just a little bit about how you can manage SQL backups, especially in a large environment. So to do this, usually the situation that we try to describe is something of a financial database. So for this scenario, let's look at a database for the year 2008. So within this database, we have 4 quarters for the 4 calendar quarters of the year. And what's happening is this financial database is processing transactions for the current quarter, which is Q4. So for these other file groups within the database, they're marked as read-only. So as they're marked as read-only, they don't have to be backed up as frequently because they're managed by a separate schedule and a separate policy. So within NetBackup here, maybe you do full backups, you retain them for a length of time, and maybe the frequency isn't very much, so you do them once a month. So you can do those for these type of backups, whereas your Q4 here is read-write. It's changing very frequently, so you set up a separate schedule where you're still doing full backups, but maybe you're doing them now daily or weekly or some shorter basis, and you're sending these here to have a shorter retention because you're doing them more often. So by configuring your database, specifically your SQL database here, you can set up your environment so that if this entire database here is something really large like 30 terabytes, you can eliminate that size or reduce that size because perhaps this is only 5 terabytes and now you don't have to back up these other 25 terabytes that really aren't changing. So NetBackup within the SQL agent has the capability to recognize file groups so that you don't have to back up the whole image. You can back up specific file groups or files within that. We also have the capability to do checkpoint restart recovery so that when you are backing up a file group, you don't have to start from the very beginning of this backup. You can go back to a previous known good point of time. So by configuring the SQL agent this way, you have a lot more flexibility to be able to really manage these large level database backups without having to necessarily back up the whole database on a very short schedule. So that's just some basic examples of how you can configure NetBackup for SQL to do various levels of protection. If you want more information about NetBackup for SQL, we encourage you to check out our website and register for a live demo webcast where we'll show some of the features and options and let you ask questions about what is the best choice for your environment.